Dear viewers, and welcome to RTD's English News Edition, the top stories. An emergency meeting was held concerning the cyclone Sekar. And on the Palestinian file, OCI calls for international protection force against Israel. Thank you for joining us in our newsroom. The acting Director General of the Meteorology made a statement this afternoon on the Sekar cyclone, which became very weak after causing significant damage to Yemen, in which touched this morning the Somali coast around 6 a.m. He said, while touching the ground, the low-intensity depression has broken down weak. However, the residues of this last one has generated intermittent showers like it did since last night in the capital. It also specifies that the wind will be moderate and the sea will steer for the next 24 hours. A meeting was held last night in the presence of the weather and protection civils officials to put the possible preventive measures. In addition to this meeting, the Director of Civil Protection, the Director of Meteorology and the heads of the various departments. The purpose of this meeting was to take steps to avoid damage because it cannot be prevented from being born, and the only possible measures are protection and mitigation, and these provisions, both individuals and collectives, are intended to limit the human and economic impact. Hurricane risk management relies heavily on weather monitoring and on the progressive alerting of the exposed population, as well as information actions on how to conduct before, during and after the cyclone. These provisions have made it possible to drastically reduce the number of victims and the extent of the damage to deplore compared to the terrifying reports of centuries, if not declared earlier. This morning, the Central Purchase of Medicines and Materials, known as CAM, has hosted a ceremony of official distribution of large batches of medical equipment and material that were hand-delivered by the Minister of Health, Jamal Mouki, to the various officials of the hospitals. The objective of this new acquisitions is to strengthen the technical platforms in the permanent concern to improve and enhance the quality of specialized care services in our main hospital structures. The renewal and modernization of the technical platforms is an essential link in the health policy reform initiated by the Chief Head of State, His Excellency Ismail Margele, in particular to guarantee universal access to quality care services. And finally, the Minister of Health urged hospitals officials to ensure the proper conservation and sustainable use of this advanced medical equipment through the establishment of an adequate maintenance plan. In his speech, the Minister of Health, Dr. Jamal Mouki, listed the 4 hospitals that benefit from these new acquisitions, namely Pilti Hospital, Sheikh Hospital, Dar al-Hanan Maternity Hospital, and Shakib Anti-Tuberculosis Center. The Minister also recalled that the renewal, modernization and strengthening of the technical platforms in our hospitals is an essential phase of the qualitative reform of health policy initiated by the Head of State. A delegation composed of regional authorities of Arta region, including the Prefect Abdullahi Drarokiye, the Chairman of the Regional Council El Mibah, the Mediator of Arta, the Colonel Commander of the Arta forces, went to the most remote localities of the region of Arta to know the situation of the population, particularly the water problems and our burden for the population in isolated areas. Their first mission was to know the general situation of the rural population from the locality of Karta, Leita, and the surroundings of Al-Unni, Gabla Gala, and Kurtimali, as well as Umar Jaga, and finally Korishab, northwest of the region of Arta. This delegation noted the problems encountered by these nomads as water or boreholes have deteriorated significantly for lack of maintenance since their creation. Reservoirs and water troughs for their heads are also outdated. Authorities in the Arta region have also raised the recurring health and safety problems caused by the displacement of illegal immigrants day and night in the Arta region. After the visit of the Prefect, Mr. Abdullahi Dirar explained the purpose of this trip. He said that the purpose of these meetings was to collect the grievances, the aspirations, but also the priority concerns of the population in relation to the local health system. Through this exercise in democracy, the Ministry of Health wanted to integrate on all these grievances in the sectoral planning of public health policy that it intends to popularize among the population in order to better serve it, and placed under the theme of making local health a reality. In these national health consultation activities have enjoyed unprecedented popularity in all regions. On Thursday, Dokum locality of the Tajora region has hosted the ceremony of giving certificates of end of training to 14 women having followed training in the field of goat cheese making. This training is part of a women's economic empowerment and community strengthening and value chain development project, a project funded by USAID and implemented by UNDP as part of the Djibouti-Italian cooperation. The Italian military support base has also strengthened the women's community of Dokum and has refined this training, and today these women make different types of cheese with exquisite taste. Thus they will expand their sales areas and will be able to generate decent income. The ceremony was attended by the leaders of the Italian army, headed by the commander of the military base, Mr. Quani Lorenzo, the technical advisor of the Minister of Women and Family, Mr. Hassan Ali, and the deputy prefect of the Tajora region, Mr. Habib Jilani, and Mr. Abdul Qadir Umar, the vice president of the Tajora Regional Council. The beneficiaries of the training made a demonstration on the various stages of cheese making with different milks before the delivery of the certificates. A delegation composed of elected representatives of the commune in 5 regions were traveling in Dakhil region to consult on the issues of water and sanitation. After a meeting in Dakhil Regional Council, the delegation of elected officials visited the water infrastructure in the region and feeding the population, especially the Harvu in Shekaito and Hanle. This program is supported by the Djibouti City Council, and the delegation visited the different regions. The chairman of the Dakhil Regional Council, elected Arta, and others have estimated that this tour was very instructive for local elected officials. In Indonesia, outside our borders, Ebola outbreak declared in the Democratic Republic of Congo. More with Hindi Ibrahim.
Democratic Republic of Congo declared an outbreak of Ebola, hemorrhagic fever, a rare and deadly disease. On Tuesday, the World Health Organization reported the declaration came after laboratory results confirmed 2 cases of the disease in the province of Bikoro in the northwestern part of the country. Ebola virus disease, which most commonly affected people and non-human primates, monkeys, gorillas and chimpanzees, is caused by one of the 5 Ebola viruses. The virus is transmitted to people from wild animals and spreads in the human population through human-to-human transmission. The average case fatality rate around 15%.
Islamic Summit calls for Palestinian security force. More details in this video.
Islamic State has campaigned in Istanbul for establishment of an international force to protect the Palestinians. The members of the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, OIC, condemned in their final declaration on Friday night the criminal act of Israel in Gaza Strip. Host Recep Tayyip Erdogan has made a comparison with the Nazi persecution of the Jews. The declaration of the 57 member states of the OIC mentions an international force that should be sent to the region to protect the Palestinian population, just as a peacekeeping force was deployed in Bosnia-Herzegovina and Kosovo. It's also necessary to deploy such a force, said President Erdogan.
And that's all for this news. Thank you for joining us on RTD and have a good night.